Hello everyone, Business Guru here. So I'm going to give you a third update on the property and what I accomplished over the weekend after spending the whole weekend. So we look at the yard and I completed the mowing on the lower settings. And you can see, I mean, the clippings are on the ground, but now I have a yard that is basically somewhat presentable for the inspector when they come. Certainly a lot better than it was, not obviously overgrown. And I can explain the work that I'm doing on the drainage there. Okay, the front, basically I confined all of my efforts to just this foyer section of the front. And what you can see there is the white is a primer coat that I have. You can see that I've done the cream, which are the little slats that highlight and the molding above. And I've done the door in cream, which is behind the screen door, and the red. Now, you can't really see it until you get close, but I have to do this is 2 coats of red, but there's some unevenness in the color, and so I have to do a third coat, which I will do now very, very quickly. I mean, I only need to really touch it up, and I can now scrape the paint that's on the glass here away from the glass. So what I had decided to do, instead of trying to tape the windows, I simply decided to paint as I needed to, let the paint dry, and then scrape it off with the scraper, which is a much cleaner way to do it. Now I want to talk a little bit really quickly about surface prep. Okay, so the last video I did where I went downtown to pick up the paint at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 4, I worked on Saturday from 4 o'clock when I got back until 9:30 at night, just doing nothing but scraping of paint, of loose paint, and paint that I could get up with the scraper. And I thought, you know, at the end of the night I was ready to apply paint the next day with a quick washing. Well, I decided again, because I want to follow all of the recommendations that Home Depot and various painters give, that I would wash the wood down with some TSP, and then wash the TSP off with water and then let it dry. So a little bit of research online led me to the conclusion that if I damp cloth wash the wood, it takes about 3 hours in the heat for it to dry sufficiently to accept a primer coat. Now the TSP I rinsed with water after reading that that's the best thing to do, that you should not apply paint directly over wood that's been treated with TSP. And you may be asking the question, well, why TSP? Why not just rub it down with water? And the reason is TSP is an alkaline, so it's a degreaser. So if there's any sap or anything from trees that's on the wood, it'll get that off. The other thing is it'll kill mold and mildew. So what I had down on the boards down here at the bottom is I had algae growing. Just like you can see if you look over on the skirting of the house over on that side, you can see some algae, and you can see some more on the skirting board over here. So what TSP will do is it will kill that, and it just gets up any grease or anything that the water would not normally get. Now, I have to admit, I mean, I've painted in my lifetime probably, I don't know, about a dozen times. And this is the first time that I've actually followed the instructions and cleaned the wood. Because, you know, when you eyeball it, you think it's clean. You know, it looks relatively clean, except you know, what you don't realize is it's outside, so of course it's dirty. If you don't believe me, that bucket of water, this bucket of water here that I used for cleaning, was clear when I started cleaning, just this small space here that I'm pointing out. And by the time I was done cleaning with a rag, I had black water that had about 1/4 inch of sludge in the bottom of the pail. And so, you know, if you paint your wood without doing that preparation, you're not painting the wood, you're painting the dirt. And eventually that dirt's going to come loose, and along with it, your paint job. So that it's not that the paint is necessarily going to peel, but you remember how I said that when you're scraping, oftentimes what you'll see is a bubbling section of paint. But then when you get your scraper up into it, you can push your scraper like up several inches and just peel off entire sections of paint. Well, that's paint that hasn't bonded to the wood properly because it's probably was dirty. So it'll stay on there for a while, but eventually it'll bubble off. And that's a large part of what will determine how long your paint job will last. At least that's my understanding of it. So, you know, all told, I spent from 4 until 9:30 on Saturday, and again when I got up and started working at 9:30, I wasn't putting my first primer coat on until about 2 o'clock. So I spent another, now I mowed the lawn in between there as well, so I think I spent about another 3.5 hours scraping additional paint that I had missed the first time, sweeping to get all of the dust off, and rinsing with TSP and then water, and scraping any additional paint that I missed while I was doing that. So, I mean, that adds up to, let's see, 5.5, 3.5, so about 9 hours of surface prep. And yesterday I painted from 2 o'clock until about 9 o'clock, so 7 hours. Today I'm going to put one quick red coat on the window there, and I'm going to apply the green. And I anticipate, it's 6:30 now, I should be done by about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So another couple of hours, which works out to be, let's see, 2 until 9, 7, so about 9.5 hours. So basically, when you're painting, a good rule of thumb is to spend as long prepping your surface as you expect to spend painting. 1 to 1, or maybe a little more. So anyway, that's where we're at now. I'll do another quick video when I finish putting on the green coat and the stairs, and yeah, you'll see what the finished product looks like. Now you see that's just a small section of the front, so notionally, if I'm trying to figure out how long this job is going to take me over the summer, if I split each part of the house, the remainder, up into halves, and I spend half the weekend on each, or 1 weekend on each half, I've got approximately 8 more weeks of work. The front section here was probably the hardest because it's the most intricate with the windows. Now, probably, now that I think of it, I probably have to spend 9 weeks because the patio is going to have 2 sides to it. And each side is probably going to take roughly that long. So it could be up to 10 weeks actually to get this completed. So, you know, July, mid-July now, end of September is about when I think it'll be done. But the important thing is that it'll be done enough and in progress when the inspection takes place on Wednesday. All right, thanks for watching. Hang in there.